After 100 episodes, a lot has changed. My format, the audience, and honestly, a little bit of me as well. This is my 100th. Let me mic drop that. Pick it back up. 100 episode of Creator Factor. Welcome if this is your first time checking out the show. I'm your host who loves you the most, Ozeal, and you're in for a treat. Especially if you are, you know what? I highly encourage if you're listening to this in the audio world. First off, thank you. Your earbuds, your attention matters to me the most. But I'm also recording this on video. You can head over to my YouTube channel, just at Ozeal, Ozeal. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I am, if you've been following me specifically on YouTube, I'm actually in a different location. I'm actually just in the lounge area, just lounging. I got my comfortable clothes on. It's a little chilly out here right now in the H, and I'm just here hanging out. Different setup, different microphone. I got my Shure SM758, and I'm just here hanging out with you this morning. And I was like, I need to do something different. I had an idea for the 100th episode, but I want to be honest with you. Like this episode, I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm like, dude, I was looking at my hosting. I'm like, oh, this is like episode number 99. What? You mean to tell me that the 100th episode is like next week? And I just wasn't able to I had some ideas. I wasn't able to put it all together, but I'm like, you know what? We're going to celebrate it regardless, right? Because we have to publish this episode. And I'm like, I'm going to change up the setting, change up the vibe. That's why if you go check it out on YouTube, you'll see a different kind of environment. And I'm just here hanging out, just enjoying it. Just wanted to just be comfortable, switch up the microphone, the vibe, and just vibe with you. Just have fun. This is what this is all about. And with my coffee, of course. Let me get my coffee. Let me get my coffee with you. Cheers. Let me know what you're drinking over there. So this is what we're doing. Started thinking about first and foremost, let me give it up to you. Let me get up to if you've been watching or listening to this podcast since 2023. 2023 is when I launched the podcast. If you've been a loyal fan since the beginning, I just want to thank you. Thank you for the bottom of my heart, the core of my soul, for sticking with me, for just supporting the podcast, just being a part of this community. I really do appreciate that. And it really means a lot. I always talk about, and I've shared this on the podcast before, how I struggle with celebrating the win. Sometimes I get so caught up in the rat race, just like a lot of creators do. And I'm on go mode, and I'm trying to be a little bit more of a balanced creator moving forward. But I'm just in autopilot mode. I'm creating content, and I just don't sit back and enjoy the body of work, what I've created. And that's why I wanted to shoot this episode. And it was like, you know what? Let me celebrate this. Let me just make it comfortable, make it to like I'm just talking to a friend, and share with you some 5 lessons. All right, 5 lessons that have changed my creator journey through the course of 100 episodes plus. And some of you may or might not know, I have produced other shows. I've produced a lot more personal shows, over 100 episodes in the past. But for this one specifically, it's 100 episodes. So there was a lot of lessons learned. And I feel like every single time you launch a podcast or you launch a piece of content or put out videos, when you're consistent, you can look back and say, okay, this is what I need to tweak. This is what I need to do better. This is what's lighting me up. This is what's not. There's a lot of like personal, there's an assessment on all regards, from a creator standpoint, from a creative standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, from a personal standpoint. There's a lot of things that you'll learn a lot about yourself. That's why I really do love this creator journey, because it does teach you a lot about yourself. All right, so I digress. Let me take a little swig of my coffee and get right to it. Again, we're going to keep it loose, y'all. We're going to keep it real loose today, and just kind of hang out. All right, I may have to take out my shoes or something. I kind of like this. This is maybe this should be my video setting here. Just lounge with you. All right, so let me share with you 5 lessons that I've learned that I wish I knew. I'm going to share a little bit about what I wish I knew, things that I've done, because again, I've produced over 500 episodes and I've launched many podcasts. But I'm going to share with you just from personal experience, because everybody's personal creator journey is different. But I'm going to share with you what I've learned from launching Creator Factor, this particular show. Lesson number 1, I got some notes here, is play with your format until it lights you up. Okay. What I mean by that is that I think a lot of podcasters get really stuck in a format. And I've seen this with clients before where they'll just do podcast interviews and they're just going and going and doing interviews. And a lot of it, for the most part, it just leads to burnout because when you host a podcast interview, and this is just kind of a tip for anybody who's interested, who's looking to start a podcast, when you're launching a interview based show, if you don't have a system down, just systems and processes is really the key to having a successful interview based show, is what I'm saying. If you don't have a system down, it'll lead to burnout. And it's a lot of work, not only, for outreach, especially if you're a solopreneur, solo creator, you're putting out, you're doing the outreach, you're planning it. Some do pre-calls, the interview, post-production, giving them the marketing assets to promote the show. There's a lot of follow-up, just a lot of factors that come into running a good interview-based show. Doing as a solo creator, I've done like over 100 interviews. I've done these type of shows before. But if you don't have a good system and you're not really well organized, it does become challenging. And then, the ones who have like a team, it makes it a little bit more efficient when you have a back end system to be able to run things. But one of the things that I've learned is, I've done straight interview based shows before. And with this one, I started as interviews. And after a while, I was like, let me switch it up, because I think the thing that a lot of creators don't factor in is the other creator factor is creative energy. And the creative energy that allows you to be free to experiment, to try new things, switching the format every now and then. I mean, from this show, I started off with interview based show with the interviews, and then from there I was like, let me just switch it up, and I started interviewing. I had this segment called Creator to Creator, and I was just interviewing everyday content creators. Some of them were like through live streams, and it was just breaking up the format, right? And then these past few months, I was like, let me take a break from all the interviews and let me switch it up and just share a little bit more about the lessons that I've learned. So I did a lot of solo shows, if you've noticed. And I got mixed reviews. Some people missed the interviews, and some people do like the solo shows. And let me know. You can always hit me up and let me know which one you prefer. But I wasn't afraid to do different formats with this one. And it was the first podcast that I launched that was seasonal. Like before, it was every week that was publishing, and they were all interviews. And this one, I switched it up. And I think it's important, again, to just play with different formats and then find the one that lights you up and double down on that. And then when it's time for you to flip it and switch it, then do that. I think this is part of being a creator, is not being stagnant. And I think the audience appreciates that too. I'm really big on, one of my goals for next year is, just switching up the environment a bit, even if it's just strictly audio. Like I want to record, like, the beautiful thing about podcasting in this mobile setup is that I can go to anywhere. I can go to a hotel, hotel lobby. I can go to a co-working space. I can go anywhere outside by the pool. I could record this anywhere and distribute content. Even if it's audio, it allows the environment to give me a different vibe. Like even now, like I feel a lot more chill. Not to say that I'm not chill in the brick background that I have that you see on YouTube. I don't know. You may hear something different. You may hear like Ozeal's a little bit more relaxed. It's a little bit different. It does. The environment does change. It does change the vibe, and it definitely it does something to your creative energy. So don't be afraid to switch it up. I think that's something that I learned. Switch up the format. All right. The other thing that I've learned is create. And I've been talking about this for a while. Focus on audience first over your creative ego. And what I mean by that is I've noticed that there's a lot of creators who get into this space, and there's both arguments. I see it on both ends, where a lot of creators will say, well, I need to, if I don't enjoy it, then, I got to think about myself. This is like a very selfish, like, I'm going to make this about me. And I'm going to talk about my journey and all this. And it's like, and there's room for that. I do find that the most successful podcasters, and when I started making it more about you and less about me, even in the solo shows, like thinking about audience first, like what are your pain points? What are the things that you think that I feel may be interested or that could be helping you in your creator journey? When I started thinking about the audience desired outcome, it helped me shape not only my content, but it helped me market the show a lot more effectively. So I'm a coach. When I coach clients, I'm very audience first driven. And I think a lot of creators, especially I'm going to speak to my podcasters, they'll think creative first and get real cute with the titles and taglines and all that, and all the taglines that make sense and creative and clever to you, but it's never keeping the audience, the other person in mind, the people that you're trying to serve. I always say, I always talk about this with when I'm on stage, is really think about, what is the transformation that you're going to deliver to your audience. I'm really big on that. And I think if we saw more podcasters or creators get into the space, whether it's on YouTube or podcasting, if you get into the mindset of like, what is my audience? What are they going to get out of this? I think that's going to be a huge advantage for you in growing your show. So the best growth comes from clarity, not cuteness and cleverness. Like you got to get very clear on who you're serving. Audience first. That's a lesson that really became a lot more profound this time around versus before. Before I was a little bit kind of in a general audience, but now I think, as they say, the riches is in the niches. And there's a lot people will say about that, argue about that. But I do feel now the more specific you are in really understanding your avatar, I think the more success your show will have. 1000%. And I see that not only in my creator journey, but when I coach clients and we're making those tweaks, it's super helpful. And it's really, really interesting. Even when I do these podcast audits, which by the way, I'm going to make sure that I link it up if you are interested in a podcast audit. I am a podcast marketing and brand consultant, a little shameless plug here, with over 10 years of podcasting, branding, and marketing, helping grow world-class top 1% shows. And I've worked with agencies, networks, solopreneurs, coaches, consultants. And if you need help auditing your podcast and just seeing what are the gaps, identifying how it can help you get more clear with your messaging, make sure that you click on the top link in the show notes and let's book a call. Let's talk. All right. So that was a little mid-roll ad there, host red ad. So let's talk about lesson number 3. All right, lesson number 3 is hold up one second. It is engagement over downloads. So what do I mean by that? I can't take this top off. What's going on here? Is a lot of people will measure the success of their podcast based off a download number. And downloads will always be that common KPI, key performance indicator, that common metric. People will look at that and it matters. I'm not to say it's standard industry measurement. I get it. But the data that gets overlooked, and I feel like a lot of, especially early stage podcasters, indie podcasters, but even B2B, what they don't look at is not only are you building brand, which is tricky to measure, but also engagement, impact. These are things that again get overlooked based off the download. And the argument is, well, if the download numbers are showing that my podcast episode is getting 105 downloads, the show isn't doing much. I'm like, man, it's 105 like earbuds and eyeballs that are retained on a weekly basis. What are you talking about? Isn't that worth something? But I think people get caught up on the numbers. And I get it. I know it's important to track growth and you want to see anything grow, right? Just like a business. You want to see numbers grow. But what about the word of mouth? What about people that are loyal? What about the people that you're making an impact and engagement and sharing your content? All that matters. And I think it gets overlooked a lot. And I would like to see more indie podcasters, if you are tracking this, what type of engagement are you getting? Are you getting, email subscribers? Are you getting clients? Are you getting people sharing your content on social? I always find that there's always 2 factors that come into growing a podcast. And it's usually these 2 is either your branding is off or your marketing is off. And they both kind of go hand in hand. Branding meaning that do you have a clear identity, a clear avatar? a clear message a promise that you're sharing with your audience? Or is your marketing, are you not marketing enough? I know, I will tell you one thing, and just a quick side note that I've noticed about this show. And I want to be completely honest because, we keep it real here. That this show, like, it's not a massive show. It's not like on YouTube, it's not getting a lot of traction. The download numbers definitely outperform the video views 1000%. And it's been steadily growing, but it's not massive, we're not getting the 10,000s of downloads on audio either. But we're growing, and it's steady, and I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. And I do pay attention to DMs and comments and the real connections that I get from the people that do listen to the podcast. And that matters to me. And that keeps me motivated, and that keeps me going with this podcast. I've contemplated whether or not I wanted to continue with this podcast, simply because I realized that I was being in the podcast marketing and branding space as a consultant. I felt like my content became too heavy on podcasts, and I was like, well, can a creator relate to this? But initially, when I started this show, the message was, all about helping, content creators, aspiring content creators, business-minded content creators, build an online brand and business through other successful creators. And that's why I invited creators from different spaces. So I wanted to keep it broad yet general. And I wasn't even thinking, the creator economy space is still a very niche. I mean, we're a very small economy, growing economy, definitely a lot of revenue. I forgot what the number was, but it's $1 billion industry. If you include all that influencer marketing, et cetera. So, but we're still a tiny economy in comparison to other industries. So going back to what I'm saying here is that, engagement over downloads. I always say that. Your message over metrics. I've talked about that all the time. I always share that with my podcast clients. And I think it's really important to make sure that you be mindful of that. And that's a lesson that I learned, is that the engagement matters a lot more than the downloads. It's not, if the downloads are not there, it's okay. Just keep pushing, keep pressing record, keep publishing, and the download numbers will come. And again, it's always these two factors. Either it's your branding is off or your marketing is off. And if you need help with that, holler at your boy. I can help you with that. And that's usually whenever you make those tweaks, that's really what helps grow the show. So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. Lesson number 4 that I learned is audit your show, like audit your podcast. After publishing, 100 episodes, one of the things, and I always say this with clients, that whenever you publish, 20, 30, even 50, I mean, you can with 50 episodes, but I like to say with a good 100 episodes, you can really have enough data to be able to pull from and do like a legit diagnostic on what's working, what's not, what type of content is landing with your people. And just being aware of the tweaks. Maybe it's tweaking, your description. There's a lot of mistakes. I even see podcasters they're in the wrong category. And there's a lot of little nuances, things that get missed. And I think that's where a coach can help you audit your show, make some tweaks. And again, whether it's on the branding side or the marketing side, helping you make those tweaks, or internally to streamline and make your process and your growth a lot more efficient. I think it gets overlooked a lot. I think everybody should look at all of that. Again, description, audio quality, and video quality, the packaging, the positioning, all that matters. And I have a really good system to help you with that. And I think it's important. It gets overlooked all the time. So I get to do podcast audits pretty much every other day in the network that I work at, and often. And I see a lot of holes, even with some of these successful shows. So yeah, don't be afraid. And I think that's one of the things that I'm doing now, like revisiting Creator Factor and seeing like what do I need to change? I need to like revisit the categories. I need to revisit my show titles, my descriptions. Do I have call to actions? Am I adding all those links, the appropriate links in my show notes? The website, am I updating it? Am I having a call to action? I want to do more like call to actions. I feel like I would love for you to subscribe to the newsletter. I don't do that much. I don't. So I'm kind of like at the mercy of the algorithms and your attention, which I appreciate on the podcast apps or on YouTube. But other than that, I haven't really been diligent on asking you to sign up, which, by the way, if you need If you want to sign up to the newsletter, make sure you sign up. It's in the show notes. But I want to be a lot more focused and zero in on that. So yeah, don't be afraid. I think podcast audits are super, super important. And you can do it. I think with 50 episodes, you can do it. You can do an audit for sure. But definitely don't jump the gun. After launching 12 episodes, you don't have to be like, oh my God, I'm not getting downloads. What's happening? It's not working. You don't have to go down that path. But I think after 100 episodes, I can honestly look at what's working and what's not and make those tweaks to make it even better for you. So that's something that it's huge. And also another thing too, side note, when it comes to auditing your podcast, I'm all about asking your audience, like go on IG stories, go on social media, send an email to your newsletter and do a feedback survey. You could even do like an Amazon gift card or something, but just ask. And even if you want to take it a step further, post a link where you could just set up 15-minute calls where you can talk to your audience directly and ask them like, hey, how can we make this show better for you? I should be doing that. See, that's something I could do. But just getting more in the trenches with your community and find out, how can I make this better? Like, I appreciate everything. I appreciate you checking out the show. How can we make it better for you? There's value in that. And I think there's a lot of good that could happen from podcast marketing and growth strategy from that. Yeah. So that's super, super important. And then last but not least is, keep having fun. I mentioned this earlier that, I get so caught up in just, I work for a podcast network. I have a day job. I'm a creator. I'm publishing content. I'm recording. I'm trying to keep up with the weekly output. Like this episode actually came out a little late because I was so busy yesterday. And it's just part of the journey of being creators. And I think I want this to be a lot more relatable to you. Part of that's one part. And then the other side of it is just understanding that I just want to make sure it's fun. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on myself. I don't want to make it, I think the moment it starts to feel like a chore, you need to step back because I don't, and I say this not to minimize how I view this podcast. I treat this podcast. Like, I don't feel like, what's the word? Like, I don't say that I take it lightly or I don't want to put too much pressure on growing the show because I haven't, and maybe it should be. But I'm one of those where it's just like, I just want to create content and share. Like, I don't have major expectations and that may change. I do want to grow the show. I have another show that I'm thinking about relaunching but I love podcasting. And I think even asking yourself, will you do it even if you knew you failed? And that's one of the things my mentor, Seth Godin, said, ask yourself, when you start a project, if you knew you failed, would you still start it? And if the answer is yes, then you landed on something special. And if the answer is no, then maybe it's not going to work out for you. And I love podcasting. Whether I have massive downloads or not, I love doing the thing. And I think that's something that I always keep in mind. And after 100 episodes, I just get back to my why and really understand that this is a journey and this is fun. I really, really enjoy having the conversations and enjoying the process of putting it together. I love the last minute podcast episode. Even that to me is fun. Like, I was not trying to get too stressed out about it because I was like, look, just have fun with it, man. It's 100 episode. Relax, dude. Just kick back, enjoy it with your people. But I love it. It's engaging. It's dope. Gives me permission to do me. I talked about that early on, how like this is something that I've learned a lot about myself as a podcaster, as a personal, as a father, as a human being, man. I just learned so much about myself. Even my son will ask me about my podcast, and he knows that Daddy does podcasting. And as a matter of fact, I asked him not too long ago. I was like, "What does Daddy do?" He's like, "Podcasting," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you're in the sandbox." And it always brings me a smile to know that I can set the example for him to be able to, encourage him and inspire him one day to be able to create his own body of work, whether it's through a podcast or art or anything. I think it's super dope. I think it's super dope to be able to think about what we do as just a fun thing, and enjoy it. Obviously pouring your love into your community, into you. That's been probably my favorite part, honestly. I always talk about how podcasting, aside from, building your brand and publishing content and marketing your business, Man, there's something about showing up for your people that really makes it all worth it. It really is. And I'm the community guy. So I talk a lot about community. And I think it's something that gets, again, overlooked, and people don't see the value in what they're doing. When you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, or you have a written content, whatever, on Substack or on your newsletter, the fact that you have subscribers, even if it's one or two, and people that are really tuned in and checking out your stuff, man, that's super valuable. Like, that's amazing. And that's something I had to remind myself after 100 episodes. I'm like, man, I have people that are listening to this show all over the world, which, by the way, if you're listening to this, where all over the world, from North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, wherever you're listening to this podcast, just know that I see you and I appreciate you. And I just want to thank you for being a part of this journey, because that community element is super important. And if I could just have a big party, and maybe one day I will, maybe I'll go on tour. I don't know. We'll see. Big dreams here, but maybe one day, I would love to do like an international podcast tour where I'm able to do this live. And I just have a lot of big vision for the show. And I definitely want to continue growing. I think the challenge, I think lately has just been, because I'm juggling so much, I haven't been able to pour my 100% into the show. I wish I could do a lot more from a packaging standpoint on YouTube, to, doing a lot more post-production on the show, on the audio side of things. For marketing, I really don't do much marketing for it. It's been all organic, and the people that are really loyal, aside from just people that subscribe to the RSS or people that subscribe to my YouTube channel, um, in my newsletter, that's really about it. And it's been steady, and I know I can grow this even more. So yeah, if there's any ask that I can have of you, is just, continue supporting, number one, the show. And if you know of any other creators that are looking for a creator, based show, or they're a business minded creator, looking to start a platform, looking to start an online business, let them swing them my way, and they can always drop me a note as well. Um, that would be really, really appreciated, and I would be really grateful for that. So that's it. That is it. My coffee's cold. I have this in this little. I don't think this Yeti kept it warm. Yeah, that's it. It was a really good chatting with you. And this is the celebration. I'm excited. Cheers to many more episodes. I do have in 2026. I have a few episodes that are going to be interviews. I'm getting back to the interviews. I really miss doing the interviews. That's something I plan on doing moving forward. Um, so more of that. And also, like, again, if there's anything that you want me to cover on the show, let me know what you think. Like, you can email me. Um, I need to double check, but it may be the creator factor or creatorfactor@gmail.com. I'll double check and I'll make sure I get the right email, but you can always email me. I'm open. I'm open. I'm open for suggestions. I'm open to make this better. I really want to make this the best show it could be. And yeah, just thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sticking around. And make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Okay, so I'm going to have more news updates there. Okay. And here's my shameless plug to end it off. If you have 50 podcast episodes, if you hit that mark or you're close to it, um, now is the perfect time to edit your podcast. So if you are interested, I do this again every day in the network pretty much. And if I can help you, dial in your brand, your messaging, your positioning, if you want a pro level podcast, consulting and audit, there will be a top link in the show notes, or DM me, hit me up on social with audit, and I'll send you the details. I'm having this really special, like, no brainer deal this month happening. Um, and it's out there. It's out there for you. So I'm here to help you out. Thank you again for checking out the podcast. If you're listening to this on audio or if you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate you, man, celebrating 100 episodes. Cheers to many more. And I couldn't do this alone. So thank you for being part of the Creator Factor journey. Till next time, peace and one love.